Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
If you hunt enough, you learn the truth. What you seek speaks a language and knows it well. That's why every Primo's call for everything you hunt is made the right way. We sweat every detail, so you get more out of every hunt. And nothing leaves our hand until we know it'll work in yours. Because we don't just make the world's best calls, we speak the language. Primos.
Outdoor Drive Podcast. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to 248 of the Outdoor Drive Podcast. If you guys haven't already, go back and listen to some of the other podcasts that we've done. I know a lot of you have come to listen to Troy, but you just got to listen to me for a couple of minutes. Normally, I'm joined, and you will hear Stevie, the madman himself, in with the podcast with me, with Troy. We always have a great time when Troy comes and joins us. We are superly blessed to have him and talk big bucks with him, and we are really looking forward to using his products here in the next couple of weeks and getting those things out. I know that it's we've kind of switched gears here, going from turkey hunting to deer hunting, and we it's that time of year. I know it's warm. You don't want to walk in the woods, but now's the time to go and check out those scrapes. Troy lays down the whole line for you, but we just got to get through some housekeeping, do some sponsorship stuff, because we are brought to you by Bowtech. Refuse to follow. They are the official bow of the Outdoor Drive Podcast. Hopefully this week, Steve's up in Bear Camp up in New Brunswick. And we've been getting some in-reaches. You guys can follow along here at all of our social media platforms. I'm just waiting for that text message from him on InReach that he's seen a big bear. He actually, just a quick update, been a slow week for him from what's been told, and he did have a real big bear north of 300 come in, was hiding behind a bush, and no shot just yet. Hopefully tonight is the night. He thinks that tonight is the night that it's going to come on in, but we'll see what ends up happening. I'm wishing him the best of luck, and I really hope that he lets that Bowtech eat. huntworthgear.com, the official camo of the Outdoor Drive. We've been hunting it with a couple of years, and I'll tell you what, for you guys getting ready for deer hunting season, think about Heat Boost. Heat Boost is incredible. Some of the best stuff, keeps you warm when other stuff won't, and that's truly coming from the heart. I mean, that's the truth of it. Fourth Arrow camera arms. Fourth Arrow makes some of the best camera arms on the market. I've been using their tripod here through turkey season, and super pumped to get it out and lay down some really good footage. You guys can follow along over on YouTube. All of our hunting videos are over there. Nor'easter Game Calls, get them in close. Custom grunt tubes. We want to talk about one of the best, most beautiful grunt tubes on the market. Usability, incredible. From a fawn to a deep grunt of a buck, that's the grunt tube to have. latitudeoutdoors.com. For all of you guys thinking about saddle hunting, mobile hunting, they actually just released a bow hanger. Probably, I got to see it at ATA. Great product, super stable. just completely amazing. And then they make another one that actually mounts on your bow and then goes on with any molly loop. So that's pretty cool. Go and check those guys out at latitudeoutdoors.com and all of your saddle hunting needs over there. So we've broke through the housekeeping, the sponsors, the guys that, keep this thing alive. We really appreciate all of you guys that are tuning in and listening. If you guys aren't ready, get on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Steve, or he might be on some other stuff. You have to go out and try and find him there. But yeah, guys, thanks for taking the ride with us here on the Outdoor Drive. We're going to turn this thing right on over to Troy Pottinger and get this thing going. Don't forget to head on over to theoutdoordrive.com. Some really good merch and some other really good stuff over there. Season's getting going, so don't forget Killer's Corner in the Outdoor Drive Facebook group. And what that is, for you guys that don't know, if you're on there, you can post up your kills, past kills, catches, fish, whatever the case may be, and get into the Killer's Corner here on the Outdoor Drive. That, my man, Madman, he drops that every single week of all the good stuff that you guys got going on. All you got to do is just get on over the Facebook page and tell the story and share some pictures. So, well, without further ado, let's turn this thing over to Troy. Let's talk about killing big bucks on big scrapes. All right, guys, we're live. We're live on all platforms. Welcome back to the Outdoor Drive podcast. We're joined with our good buddy, Troy Pottenger. Man, this is not the first time that he's been heard here on the podcast, but we are excited because it's that time of the year. How we doing, Troy?
Doing good, man. How are you guys?
Good, man. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. I know this is working season for you and getting out in the woods and making scrapes, but I figured if we can share the information with everybody else, I think it would be greatly appreciated across the board.
Yeah, sounds good. Right in the middle of it right now, hitting it pretty hard the last month and a half, and going to hit it hard till, probably heavy green up middle of July, and I'll start backing off, and because I open up August 30th. So my goal is to always have all my layout done sometime in June, and then just touch up on a few extra places or maybe some spots that I noticed along the way that I need to get into, but pretty much like to have everything dialed by mid-June, and then it's just let the cameras do their work and then start sliding back in July and checking on, once you really know what you're looking at in July, then I like to start making game plans on potential guys that I want to hunt.
That's awesome. I can't wait to learn a little bit more about it. Well, why don't we put this thing right in four-wheel drive? And for those that don't know who you are, why don't you tell them who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about what you do, Troy?
Troy Pottenger, Northern Idaho boy. Native of Northern Idaho, spent my whole life in the mountains. As a kid, my grandfather was an outfitter, so I spent a lot of time in the Frank Church Wilderness in Idaho. It's one of the biggest wildernesses in the lower 48 with my dad, and then just fell in love with whitetails at a young age. And my old man was a logger, and we moved way up to the panhandle of Northern Idaho when I was 10 or 11, and kind of in between that by the time we got up there, and I was 11 years old, and I could legally start hunting at 12, so my dad moved us into probably one of the best whitetail habitats there is out here, and I fell in love with whitetails and just dove in from there and fell in love with it, and it's become my complete life's passion and love. I just absolutely love hunting mountain whitetails. And in the 1990s, I never picked up a gun again and just started bow hunting them only, and that was always my goal, to kill them close and make sure that I was hunting and not just killing from a long distance. I wanted to get close and get in their wheelhouse and beat them at their own game. So in the 90s, I started bow hunting them only, exclusively, and that was it. Just fell in love once I killed that first deer. Well, I killed a couple little guys when I was younger and a spike bull with a bow, so I loved the bow hunting, but I pretty much just said I'm done carrying a gun in the 90s, and once I got to start shooting a few pretty nice bucks in the 90s with a bow, that was it. I'd never go back to any other way I hunt a whitetail. There's something about bow hunting and killing them close. 15, 20 yards, 5 yards, 10 yards in the mountains on a buck that has no idea that you're around, and usually they know when we're around.
They're smarter than you think. They really are.
They are. They usually know when you're in the woods. So I just fell in love with the proximity and the closeness of killing these old mountain whitetails up close. And the truth is, the respect I have for them, getting in that tight with them and learning about them so much, is I can't even. I really don't do a good job of explaining it. But the respect I have for these old bucks it's hard for me to even put into words. Because I end up spending so much time with them to ever be able to put together the kind of the right combination to get them killed, and I really don't hunt anything under the age of 5 years old either. So I get the luxury of getting to spend time with them when they're 2, 3, 4, and getting to know those bucks and really pattern and condition and just really get to know them to where they always have a name, and I always have a history with them, if you will. I really don't ever hunt or run into bucks I don't know anymore. Every now and then, maybe, I think last 20 years, I think I've had 1 or 2 trespassers that showed up on me that I didn't know, and that's about it.
So you do name your deer, Troy?
Yeah, I like to name them because I can categorize them then and keep them all, in order. And my wife just got home, so my dogs might go nuts.
It's all good.
I name them not for the romantic side of it or to be cool. I don't like any of that stuff to be cool. It's probably misunderstood for some of us guys that put so much into these whitetails. I name them kind of, 1, to categorize them, 2, to keep them all in my mind, and just know instantly when I say a certain buck's name. I usually base it. I mean, there's a lot of different things I base it on, but it kind of gives them a uniqueness, and we usually name them something unique, and I don't know. I think it really helps me to focus on specific deer. I'm not interested in hunting deer. I'm interested in hunting specific bucks. But that doesn't mean just one. Sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 or 5 bucks that I put a ton of time into in 2 or 3 states. And it's all, big public land bucks, so they're getting hunted by everybody else too. But I just really like being organized and very methodical and tactical in all of my plans, with each buck. And I really like watching bucks grow up. A lot of the bucks that I kill, I've known for 2 to 5 years, usually in that range. And it's because I do hunt scrapes and I condition bucks on scrapes, and I play the long game with bucks. I start them out at 2.5 on a scrape, and if they can survive, I'll usually have them every year. And, that's a whole different ball game to dive into and talk about too, that I really don't ever talk about much. But playing that long game with them and really conditioning them is pretty intense, and it's exciting to watch that all play out over 2 or 3 or 4 years, and then jumping in after them when they hit their maturity.
So how do you oh, go ahead.
Do you find that a deer like that you have a history with, say like a 6 or 7 year old buck that you've been watching for 4 years or so, do you find that to almost be easier to catch up with him as a 6 or 7 year old because you have a history with him compared to like a new 6-year-old that just showed up?
Well, I think a guy always likes to have some knowledge of what he's after. I've never been interested in the last couple decades, probably since I was about 33, 34. I've never been interested in just hoping to kill something or hoping a big one will show up. I almost like to have to put a bunch of work in and get to know them and make all the right moves, but the the key is, to answer your question, is it doesn't necessarily make it easier. It makes it doable, and it does give me some confidence because I know them so well. But they're at their best at 5, 6, and 7. They are at the top of their game. 5, 6, 7, even 8. These dudes they have managed to escape everybody else and all the predators that have tried to kill them. They're in the top of their game at those ages. I feel like when they hit 9 or 10, and I have killed a couple bucks that got that old, I do feel like they go downhill a little bit and may slip up a little more. But that 5, 6, 7-year-old age guys, they're freaking hard to kill out here because they have so much experience under their belt. So definitely when they get to the age I want to target, it helps. And I probably wouldn't be in the game with them as well. I doubt I would. It would just be hoping that I could be in the game with a deer, which I absolutely cannot stand to hunt on hope. I won't do it.
Right.
But what's awesome about letting them live is I absolutely love seeing them at 2 and 3 and 4. I get excited to watch them do their natural thing, knowing that they have no idea that I could have just killed them. Like this buck right here behind me, right there, I probably, between my son and I, probably over a 3-year period, him under our tree stand 3 different times as he was growing up. You want to talk about building awesome history with a deer that you end up killing when he's 6? I had 3 years of history of sitting in tree stands with my son when we got to talk about that buck. We had him named, and we always would say if 6-pack can get to 5 or 6, he's going to be incredible. My son and I got to sit in a tree stand and watch him work scrapes when he was younger. We got to work on him for 3 years of where he really liked to move at different parts of these seasons. So we got to put all these pieces of the puzzle together, and my son's learning all of this versus just killing him when he was a beautiful 3-year-old. And we could have. And my son could have killed him as a beautiful 3. But I always told Ty, if we let bucks like this get some age, and if they can make it, if they can evade the predators and the rifles and all the other bow hunters, you're going to learn a ton from the deer. You're always going to learn more from the bucks than you're going to learn from any human. So I know that was long-winded, but that long game is worth it to me. It's given me more knowledge about than anything because I've been able to observe them in the wild doing their thing the way they want to do it, and I've learned from them before I ever decide to go in and try to take one out.
I think a lot of people honestly can learn from nature, right? By A, passing animals, B, just like even turkey hunting, right? Take turkey hunting for example, because we're just coming out of season, but like turkey hunting, if you were to sit in the woods and just listen to those birds and how they interact and stuff, the more aggressive animal is actually the hen turkey more than it is the gobbler turkey. And you wouldn't know that without watching them and watching how they learn. And it's probably transpired and turned right into whitetails, where some bucks are a lot more aggressive with other bucks, some aren't, some are very lackadaisical, and you can only learn from them by watching them. You might have a 10-second clip on a trail camera, you can't really learn from them, but when you start passing them and they're on that scrape for 5, 10, 15 minutes, you can learn a lot about that animal. I can only imagine.
Yeah, you learn a lot about their demeanor. I really dig deep into animals and try to dissect everything I can about them through observation, obviously, first. I run long video on my cameras just to break down other items of interest that I have to help with my game plan. You know, like I map out the wind on my cameras with video. I film the wind on purpose so that I can apply that to how that specific whitetail with a specific demeanor uses it at my scrapes. And I can't agree more. People will ask me all the time, Troy, what's the number one thing that has taught you how to hunt whitetails? I'm going to tell you, it's living with them, allowing them to do natural things in front of me without spooking them, just really watching them. And it's taught me a ton about all the other animals in the woods too, because I hunt the same way with any animal. But yeah, all those observations and all of that stimulus that you take in over the years and watching different deer do different things. And it really gives you an open mind too, to like, I never get set in, I'm not a one pattern, or I'm not a one method type of guy when it comes to hunting, other than shooting a bow. I'm all about being multi dimensional in how I can attack a game plan on a whitetail buck, and I'll figure it out and do whatever it takes to get him killed if I have a chance at him, which usually just means if I can find him in the daylight, any type of frequency, I'm always going to go with whatever the most intelligent, strategical game plan is going to be, versus just saying, I'm this kind of hunter and this is the only way I'm going to hunt him. When it comes to tactics and methods, it might be off the ground, it might be at 12 feet, it might be at 30 feet, based on terrain, based on a buck's demeanor, based on his aggressiveness. I mean, I might actually try to call a couple different bucks because I know they're so territorial, versus hunting a real secretive buck that may have a unbelievable build to him and a rack, but he's kind of a guy that is careful and very secretive and maybe not quite as of a brute or a bully as some other bucks. So anyway, I just think you really can't copy and paste one specific method and say that's who you are. I think I really like to be multifaceted in how I hunt whiteys.
So take us back right from the beginning. So like now we're getting into that beginning time of the year where you're starting to lay down these scrapes in multiple different areas. But take us through like what you're doing, how you're setting it up from start to finish.
Yeah, I hunt a couple places that are absolutely no baiting and you can only hunt scrapes. I hunt a couple places in states to where people can bait, you can bait, you can do whatever you want. So the one common denominator that has always worked for me and that has always produced daylight frequency of the best bucks anywhere I've ever hunted has been over scrapes. Now, scrapes are talked about all the time now. 20 years ago, they were not talked about hardly at all. They just were conventionally used during a 3-week period, which I've been hunting whitetails and killing bucks from late August to December for 25 years on licking branches alone. But these scrapes are the key, in my opinion, to whitetail communication. And it's not just bucks, it's the does. And when I say these scrapes, I'm talking about those gold mine type scrapes that all the whitetails in a given area will use and will on purpose address and check to keep tabs on the local herd amongst each other. That's how they keep tabs. It's ingrained in their biology to do so. So for me, the scrape is always in my equation. It's always the common denominator in how I start prospecting. For example, right now I'm prospecting. I am laying out massive, vast country, prospecting for the kind of whitetail that interests me at where I'm at now with my whitetail hunting. And I lay this country out, and it always starts with the scrape, guys. And in the states that allow me to put minerals out for them and help them with their health, I'll do that too. If it's not allowed, I just run big scrapes. But these big scrapes, what they do for me, even right now when I put them in, is whatever location I determine or I believe based on a lot of scouting from maps all the way down to pounding a ton of ground first. And I always pound the ground before I ever put one in. Once I narrow a spot down and say, yep, this terrain, this habitat, I'll say habitat over and over. If you don't have the right habitat for an old whitetail buck that he likes, and if you don't have the security for him, and if you don't have terrain for him that works for him, and if you don't have wind that works great for him, he's probably not going to live there. So I go in and I make sure an area or a spot or whatever you want to call it, I make sure that all that's there first. And I put a lot of time into hiking and breaking ground down. And then I narrow it down and narrow it down and narrow it down based on all the deer travel, the natural terrain barriers that exist in a given spot. I base everything on how I can park, enter, and exit a big woods, vast forest setting, not alarm any of the deer at where I'm going to set up with the noise of my vehicle. So I'm usually parked a long ways back. Sometimes I'll mount or ride my e-bike closer. And I'm not even talking about gated roads or anything. I'm just talking about open forest roads that anybody can drive on. I lay all of that out in my mind, and then I really start dialing in the entrance and exit. And once I map that entrance and exit out in my mind on foot while I'm there at the location, then I'll place that scrape. And I've got it. I mean, I make sure I have every box checked. Every box gets checked. Then I'll build the scrape. And when I build the scrape, I'm building a scrape that mimics what a true community scrape in that country that I'm in, what those deer have shown me that they prefer for licking branch species, what the scrapes tend to look like in that given area, and it changes from area to area, state to state. I really dial in the deer based on what they show me. So then I mimic this, and then I put multiple profiles of different deer and their glands on the licking branch and in the dirt, just like it should be. More than one deer, always. So I'm building a community of deer for some deer that are already existing there, and because of the sign they've showed me, I know they're there. For example, this couple days ago, I walked right up on I'm pretty sure it was a lone buck by himself bedding, bumped him out because I really wanted to be at this spot based on all the narrowing down for about 3 hours. Right when I got super close to where I knew I needed to build the scrape, I could see the bench I was going to put it on. I heard a deer move off. Walked up, checked it, great big bed. I have no doubt that after I built that, guys, and placed it, I have no doubt there will be a buck on that camera when I go back and check it any day. Because it just made sense why he should be there. Now, I didn't see him with my eyes, but I heard him slink off through the green. And everything's greened up out here. Tons of foliage everywhere. The brush is 4 to 8. He just laying in it, had just got up out of it, and I could see his tracks in the dirt and the sand out through the mountains. So anyway, lay that scrape out, set the cameras up right. My entrance and exit is already dialed. Multiple trees that I can hang in and hunt from depending on how the wind treats me. You know, one thing I need to add too is I always have the wind guide me into those spots. So I walk with the wind and I feel the wind and I watch the wind on all the old man's beard, but I feel it on my face and I really watch it. So usually the last 200 to 300 yards of my final approach of where to set up, the wind always guides me based on where I know I'm going to enter and exit from. So I really pay close attention to how that wind guides me to that spot. Why do I do that? I'm going to come in and out of there multiple times, probably over the next decade or more, if it's a productive spot, because I play the long game on some of these bucks. And I want to make sure that when I slide in there and set up that first time, that I don't screw the frickin' wind up because I'm in a hurry. I never get in a hurry. I would probably drive most people crazy in the woods if you went with me for a day, because I'll spend 4 or 5 hours narrowing down a 400-yard circle down to a 50-yard circle, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's always based on that wind and how that wind works precisely in that location. Now you'll say, well, you're not there at daylight or you're not there at dark and the thermal might work different. Well, I've been around long enough to know how the thermal is going to work in the morning and in the evening. So I can already add that into the equation. But I really want to know how that wind's going to work through that terrain with predominant winds. So I'll always go in and set my spots up on my most predominant winds.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a real odd wind, that's not a real smart day for me to go in and set up on. Or if I do know that I'm actually probably going to be better off on the other side of where I'm set up, because the most of the time I'm going to get a west or a south wind. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So anyway, it's what I love.
Yeah.
I am happiest on this planet when I'm doing that alone in the mountains or with my boy. It's just like, it's what I was made for. Do I still screw it up sometimes and have to adjust? Absolutely. And you always got to be open-minded to that. And if you pick up on a mistake you made later or a setup, then you adjust and you move a little bit. Do I strike out very much with setups and trail cameras on my scrapes? No, not anymore. Not anymore, because I think I really take the time and have learned over several decades what I'm looking for. I know what to look for. You know, the big tracks, the rubs, the scrapes, all of that I see all of that when I'm doing that shrinkage of the area. It's there.
All right, I got to slow you down because I have so many questions in my head right now. Back to access real quick. So we've talked before in other podcasts, you know, sometimes you're accessing from above and dropping in. Sometimes you have to access from the bottom and come up. One thing that we run into over here on the East Coast is sometimes our access is limited. So we only kind of have one option sometimes. And then, you know, you factor in your prevailing wind and your thermals and all that stuff. So how important is like ground scent? Like what do you do? Like if you have to, like you say, you access with the wind in your face.
In every pair of Tecovas boots, you can expect handmade quality, first wear comfort, and timeless Western style. A great pair of Western boots will elevate a casual look or add a refined flair that'll draw both eyes and compliments. Tecovas boots are always made from premium bovine and exotic leathers, and with occasional resoling, they will last a lifetime. The best way to shop for boots is at your local Tecovas store, where you'll be greeted by the smell of fresh leather and a friendly smile. Come on in, grab a cold one, get fitted by a pro, and shop the latest styles. We also offer custom branding and leather stamping if you want to personalize your boots or fine leather goods. As spring makes its way into summer, stay cool in a short sleeve, moisture-wicking pearl snap, or make your own shade with one of their classic straw hats, new in both men's and women's styles. And if you're planning to hit the road, Tecovas' ever-growing lineup of rugged and full-grain leather bags will get you where you're headed in style and are built to last decades. Visit Tecovas.com. That's TECOVAS.com, and don't go gently, y'all.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
If you hunt enough, you learn the truth. What you seek speaks a language and knows it well. That's why every Primo's call for everything you hunt is made the right way. We sweat every detail so you get more out of every hunt, and nothing leaves our hand until we know it'll work in yours. Because we don't just make the world's best calls, we speak the language. Primos.
What do you do if have to access because of the wind one way, but you have to cross and set up on the other side of that scrape because of your access.
Yeah, and I'm not always accessing with the wind perfectly in my face. What I'm doing is accessing with a wind, and usually coupled with terrain barriers that benefit me on a higher percentage than where a buck would walk. So I'm pushing it too sometimes, but I'm using every resource out there to help me, whether it's a rock bluff, a huge acreage of blowdown timber from windstorms. So sometimes, like you guys are talking about, where you have to cross it, I've hunted spots to where I only had one access. I didn't have a choice.
Right.
I've got a tree stand right now that's had 185, 90-inch typical on it in the past. And the only access I had was from the west. And I freaking hate west accesses out here because I get a ton of west wind and a ton of southwest. So I didn't get to hunt that stand very much because I knew with that deer, if he was east of me, he was always going to know I was coming. So I had two choices. You have two choices when you come across that. Where I'm at, I could access, walk a mile around because you guys probably don't have this, but I could walk a mile around and loop all the way around on him and work really hard to get to him because I have huge country that's forest. But if you're literally cut off by private land and you have fences, I always say I have no fences. I have public land and I deal with a lot of stuff, but I have no fences. For me, I would only probably hunt one of those kind of spots, especially if I had a great deer, on the odd wind, or at least a wind that gives me 50 to 75% chance. I would never hunt him. I would never educate a buck. Personally, I wouldn't, if I know that my wind is blowing right at where he's coming from or bedding. I just won't do it. I just won't do it, guys. I'll wait for the odd wind. If you can't get around a fence or a property line and you're not going to get dropped off by a helicopter, then my guess is you have to be patient and hunt them on a wind that can help you get in, the odd wind. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the nitty-gritty was, will you ever walk past your scrape? Do you always hunt the side of the scrape that you're accessing
The downwind side?
I rarely ever hunt with the wind right in my face. Ever.
Well, less wind, but more access. Like when you're coming in, if you're coming in from the west, you would never go to the east side of that scrape. Like, are you setting up before you get to the scrape?
Crossing the path.
If I'm coming in from the west and I think he's bedded east of me, I'd never go to the east. Well, I can't go because on an old deer, on these old deer, he already knows I'm there way before I get there.
Right.
He already knows. He's not showing up for days in the mountains. Will I ever, ask me again, will I ever cross what?
So like
cross what?
Cross the path that the deer would be coming into the scrape.
Yeah, so if you're like, you have your truck.
Yes.
Where you're coming in from, do you stop before you get to the scrape and get up a tree, or will you ever walk past the scrape to get in a tree and cut him off before he gets to the scrape?
Oh, 100% if I have an edge wind. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. If I have an edge wind where he'll just miss my wind and I'm just off to the edge and I need to cut him off early, 100%. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me as long as I at least have an edge wind on him. And that's how I usually kill all the old bucks. They have a wind that works for them. I'm just off to the edge of it, just barely. And they think they're safe as hell.
Right.
That's usually the only time I see them. And usually when I kill, my wind has missed that buck by about 10 yards. Usually, guys. I rarely have a wind blowing right in my face and have a big buck come in this country with the wind blowing straight over his back. Why? Doesn't work really good out here with predators when it's thick cover. And I hunt thick timber, so they can't see more than 50 to 80 yards.
Right.
So my bucks really adhere to their noses. Now, when I hunted open ground in North Dakota, I had totally changed that because they were using their eyes for everything. They would actually allow themselves to smell some human activity because we were hunting farm country with farmers everywhere.
Right.
But what they didn't ever want to do is see a human. So I just play the game that the deer dictate to me. But in this country, so that this isn't a blanket statement to everybody, if you're hunting thick cover, thick timber, where deer can't see very far, and that's what they live in, they're probably going to rely on their nose more than anything. If you're hunting wide open country, Kansas, I've hunted North Dakota, those kind of places, they better not see you. They better not see you. If you hunt where there's a lot of humans around, a lot of people in and out of the woods, then you might get away with a little more scent than you would where bucks never have humans around except for when it's danger, and then they freak out.
We do have a couple of listener questions here, Troy. The Mountain Whitetail said, do you see any annual data on your scrapes, same buck, same scrape, in a certain time frame?
Oh, yeah. A lot of my bucks, they get to either one of the scrapes that I'm over marking that has already been built by the deer and I'm just over marking it because it's incredible, or a big mock. They start conditioning themselves on them, and they start to show me patterns. That's where the benefit of seeing them on a scrape for 2 or 3 years is unbelievable. My cameras run all winter. My cameras run all season in a lot of places that I don't even hunt because I'm working on a buck that's a 3.5-year-old, but I'm not going to hunt him till he's 5 if he can make it. So I get 2 years of data or 3 years of data on this dude if he makes it. And I get to watch him show his tendencies based on his demeanor and his personality of when he really likes to be there a lot. Now, there's 2 different types of bucks that come to scrapes. You've got the homebodies that live close. And if you get in an old homebody buck's wheelhouse and he's not a big ranger that really ranges out, you'll get him a lot more. And then you get these bucks that, I guess I can refer to him as, I got a buck, I call him Ranger right now. He runs 2 miles a day. And in the early season, he might be on one ridge one day, totally outside of the rut, and be a mile away eating the next day or 2 miles away. And then during the rut, he runs it all. So he's just everywhere. Those homebodies, you can get right up on them. And I force my hand on them when they're old enough to hunt, to where if I need to, I'll move even closer towards their bed, build a big scrape, put it right in their face. They're already used to what I have built for them, say at another spot that maybe they only frequent 2 or 3 times a week, max. I'll move right at them and get them almost every day. Now, if I was screwing with that deer when he was 3.5 and doing that to him at 3.5, he might catch on to me. Let him get older, let him get ripe, just they're studs. But then you bring what they already know and feel that is safe in that scent, and you move it closer to them, they're like, all right, what's going on here? Now this is even closer to where I like to hide out. Now, take that with a grain of salt. A lot of my mountain bucks move around from month to month. Those big ranger bucks that run a big circuit and are always moving, even in their feeding patterns in the summer, and do a lot of traveling because that's just their demeanor, those bucks I usually have to work on at multiple sites over a 1 to 2 to 3 mile area. And I really have to key in on their favorite food sources before the rut. I have to key in on where they really like to hang out when it's 80, 90 degrees versus 60 and 70 degrees, where the best water is. And then hope and pray the frickin' mountain lions and the wolves don't move them.
We do have another question. Shadow Pursuit said, what tree species is your favorite for licking branches in that area?
In the mountains?
Yeah.
I never give away my number one.
I know.
I knew the answer to that one. You were supposed to tell us off the air last time, and you never told us.
I've never told.
Got a number 2, I think.
I've never told anybody my favorite, but the truth is, if you really study some botany, you would know.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'll tell you what, Douglas fir and ocean spray is really good out here. And I've killed a lot of bucks off those two.
See, so it's funny is I had a side conversation with some friends about scrapes and this, that, and the other thing. And he was sending some pictures of, like a spruce tree or a pine tree, And he's sending me pictures, and that's where he's doing scrapes on it. And I'm like, for our area, you don't see a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? They're not using that. That's not like a go-to type of tree that they would use. A lot of beech trees, a lot of that kind of stuff, we see a lot on them. So it's kind of crazy, different areas that they use different stuff, but it's understanding, and coming up in the conversation is like they use those softer needled pines because it holds scent for a lot longer is what they were thinking, or what we were thinking.
My bucks out here take a Douglas fir, which you guys would call a pine tree. It's conifer. Mm-hmm. They completely strip all the needles off the branches. Jeez. And then they work the heck out of those stripped branches. And then they deposit forehead up into the needles, up higher. Wow. So, I've watched bucks on video and live work 6 to 8 feet of a branch, and the whole, just rub himself up in it. But when he gets out to those licking branches that are stripped and hanging down and tore up and twisted, and you can tell they've been there a while. And that's what you always see at a community scrape because of the decades of abuse to them.
Right.
Then they really touch those up carefully, and they make sure they put their saliva all over them, and then they rub their preorbitals in there. They really work those close. And I'll put those videos on slow motion and just watch every move they make. And different bucks, different demeanors, spend more time. Other bucks come in, beat the living hell out of it, walk off. I've got bucks that'll come in, hit a scrape, stand there for multiple minutes and just look around and scent check everything in the area. I've got bucks that have come in and literally, I've got a buck this year that's 8.5, going to be 8.5. He was one of my top 2 last year, and I ended up killing one of my top 2. And I think he made it. I have him. He ranges. His name's not Ranger, though. It's a different deer. Anyway, and that's true. He ranges around, and last year, he, on video, destroyed one of my mocks that I've had since 2018. He ripped it apart, broke it down, stomped it into the ground. I just replaced it for him. So when he comes back, he'll be happy.
Wow. How often are you bringing in your licking branch of choice? So I guess, back to what Trevor was saying before, here it's beech tree. Beech branch trumps everything. Like, if you go on an oak flat and there's a beech tree and there's no scrape, you might as well just go to the next oak flat, right?
Well, that's a no-brainer, guys. You should be packing beech trees in everywhere. Why wouldn't you?
So if there's not a beech tree there,
pack one in.
The tree itself isn't important. It's what that branch is. No,
that buck that broke me off, my 2018 mock scrape that I killed one of these bucks behind me on. I built that scrape. I used my preferred licking branch because it's in that area, and I will walk out through the woods 300 yards to find one if I have to.
And bring it to where you want it.
Oh, yeah. You place those deer where you want them. Okay. Why? Because it allowed me to enter, exit, and kill him. Gave me everything I needed. Well, this buck that just broke me off this last season on video came in and tore me up middle of November and busted it. Well, I was hunting a different deer, killed a different deer, and left him alone. So I got all that intel on him until late December. The licking branch went back up there that I just rebuilt, and the same species.
Okay.
Why? Because he has showed me, and all the bucks in that drainage have showed me that when I hang that species of licking branch, I get them all. They show up.
Yeah.
They have also showed me on other scrapes in that drainage that are on Douglas fir that they don't hit them as frequently or as religiously as they like this specific species. So I get to watch multiple camera sites, locations, on multiple scrapes. I test this all the time on different deer. If I come across a buck that ends up liking a Douglas fir better than anything, and he's the one I want to kill, guess what he's getting? Douglas fir. So guys, it's not rocket science. It's just paying attention to all the details.
Right.
And does it bother me to pack a 5-ounce licking branch out through the woods to get it to the spot it needs to be? No. And I have it, I just pull tight strap, piece of paracord for perfect height, and I'm done. So I always have paracord. I always have a pull tight strap. And this specific one we're talking about that is unbelievable mock that buck just tore apart and I just replaced, it's on a jack pine tree. Jack pine trees don't even have limbs the first 30 feet. So I just placed it where it needed to be. That deer doesn't know that specific species of licking branch, he doesn't know that it doesn't grow out of that tree. Right. He doesn't realize that I have it strapped on. He doesn't care. I just give him what he wants.
Quick question, Troy. So zip strip paracord, are you zip stripping it like horizontal off another branch, or are we hanging it straight down from paracord like vertical?
I'm taking a branch and hanging it out at about a 45 so that I can build it, and then it'll end up hanging like this.
Yep.
So back here, where it adheres to the tree, I take a zip, or not a zip, but a pull tight.
Yep.
Pull tight strap.
Yep.
And I strap it around the tree.
Okay.
Then I take paracord out here. And run it around the licking branch and up to the tree, and I put it at the perfect height.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have 2 points of contact. And guys will say, well, it sounds like your licking branches are getting ripped off. Rarely. If you saw the buck that tore this licking branch off, you'd know why. He's an absolute unit, like unit of all units. He's just super aggressive. Most of the time, my mock licking branches get the living shit beat out of them and swung around and worked, and then they just fall right back into place because of the paracord to the tree, and then the strap wrapped around the tree, and it's a pull tight. Now, is that something that I saw somebody do? No, I just years ago in the woods said what would work the best here with 2 points of contact.
What's the perfect height to be putting a licking branch?
I always say I'm 5'10". I like my licking branches right in my face or at my top of my chest.
Okay.
And I'm 5'10". So I just like them. I like to look right into them when I set them. And if you think about a big buck, guys, that's pretty easy for him to get into.
He's going to stand up on his hind legs anyways to get into if he wants to anyways. He don't care.
But they don't. They do. Yes, they do that. But I put them to where they don't have to, but they can if they want to, yes.
Right.
I have a unbelievable mock scrape at a different location. Because you made me think of this, Trevor. And the bucks have worked it so hard the last 5 or 6 years that they literally have broken all of my big licking branches up so high that now they have to stand on their hind legs. This is a scrape that I monitored last year but did not hunt. And what I noticed by running that trail camera this season, they finally have broken out all of my hangers up high enough to where they have to stand on their hind legs now, and they don't spend as much time there. And I didn't like that. So what did I do? Go back in, pulled a bunch down, broke them down lower, got them back right where they like them.
And it became more active, or will?
It will. And I just did that 2 weeks ago because I just pulled the card, just went through the whole winter. The camera ran all winter, and I got to watch even them coming back, migrating into the mountains in April. I got to watch some does and stuff walk by and just look up at it like, that sumbitch is too high. You know, they just kind of looked at it like, where'd it go? So I pulled it all back down, and I believe wholeheartedly it's going to be way more effective now, but I'm on it. That only happened last season, late in the season, that they broke it out enough to where it finally needed lowered again.
So is there certain topographical features that you're looking for before going in and putting in a community scrape? Like, is there certain areas that may already have them, or you want to put them in those certain features?
Yeah, a lot of times the terrain that I invade into on purpose, because of the terrain, the topographical features that all work together, a lot of times what I look for is multiple funnels that push deer to a location or an area. And a lot of times that turns into maybe a low saddle off of multiple ridges, or a bench, or a flat. But I have to have everything out and beyond it for a mile at least work for me, at least a mile away. I want to look in every direction for a mile and really break down how that big country funnels stuff. And then I'll get inside the timber and walk it all and look at the rock formations, look at the real deep, some of the real deep draws are way too many blowdowns in them for deer to walk through. I'll put all that into my head and decide, okay, where are they walking? Can they get here? And then I will go to that center point of where I believe the highest amount of traffic is created based on terrain, features, and the wind. The wind always drives deer. It dictates their movements day to night, night to day. It dictates their vertical movement. It dictates their horizontal movement every day of their life, especially in heavy predator country. So all that goes into the computer, and then I try to choose a spot that's relatively flat to give a little reprieve for them to come to a specific point. For example, this last weekend, I was in a huge saddle, probably a 1/4 mile wide. But I found the saddle within a bench. So I found this perfect little bench between the giant saddle, a micro saddle, and then I found this bench that everything led to. And guess what I found there when I got within 40 to 50 yards of where I wanted to make a mock, and guess what I walk up on?
A giant communal.
Big scrape. Yeah. It was where it was supposed to be. So then I look at their community scrape and I go, okay, can I hunt this effectively, or do I need to move where I wanted to in the first place based on the wind, how it walked me in here initially, where I can hang a tree stand, where my best cover is, where my best entrance and exit is. And I chose to go ahead and overmark that community scrape, but I moved 40 yards away. Why? Because it gives me a better chance of killing the same damn deer, and they'll hit both scrapes. They're going to hit both of them.
So break back.
No brainer.
Go back.
So you're going to overmark the existing and then put in a new one where you want to kill them.
Exactly. Do that a lot. I do that a lot, guys, and I put a double in because this is what a double or a triple, a cluster will do to them. Those deer are all used to seeing that big community scrape. They're going to walk in there now, and 40 yards away, they're going to smell me, which when I say me, it's all those deer. It's those multiple profiles.
New deer.
And every deer in the area is going to go, who the hell's in here? They're going to walk over there and go, new deer, new scrapes. Somebody is trying to show some dominance over us, and we didn't know about it till right now. So what ends up happening, and I've done this for decades, move them where I want them, even if it's only 40 yards away because it gives me a better chance of killing. Pull them right over to me, gives me a better chance to kill them. I don't booger them as much because of my entrance and exit. I got the best trees. I got the best cover. I'm in the game. I'll see every deer that goes to that community scrape, the real one, over at my mock. And then what happens is they just start coming back and forth. And those scrape clusters, most productive, incredible scrapes are made by the deer. They existed by the deer, and they're big, giant scrapes, 4 or 5 feet, all of them, and they're in clusters of 3, 4, and 5. And every year they just blow up more. Like I've got one that used to be 4 or 5, and now it's like 8. So I just keep building on that, guys, in the long game, and we kill. Gosh, those 2 spots I'm speaking of, I've killed a 160, a 170. Ty had a 160 he almost got a shot at. The other spot, Ty killed a 150, and we pulled a different buck to another community scrape just below him, a 160 that Ty killed. So just in those really unique community scrape clusters, I see the most unbelievable year-round video on them too. So back to my point. Let's back up. I found that community scrape within 40 yards of where I wanted to be. I overmarked it. I walked over, and instead of just building one, I basically said, F you, big boy, here's 2. And I made them beautiful. And I put the scent in, and that was where that deer got up and walked away from me that I couldn't see, but I heard him and I checked his bed. And this is up in a high pocket to where I might only have 2 or 3 does up there, guys. But I think I might be able to kill that deer early season just checking that community scrape because it's very close to where he likes to live right now.
Right.
So, go ahead.
I will say this. I think during the rut, that awesome little bench that I found within the saddle, within the big saddle, within the bigger saddle, I believe that gets a ton of rut traffic based on the sign that I read. Lots of rubs, trails, wagon wheel of trails across it from every direction. It is like this little focal point of where they all want to come through based on the terrain and how the western wind works through there.
What would you have done? Like everything pointed to that spot within the spot, and you got there, and 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a scrape.
Boat Trader is America's largest boating marketplace with over 100,000 boats to choose from. We offer simple, comprehensive solutions for those looking to sell, find, and finance new or used boats. Visit BoatTrader.com to get started.
Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
In every pair of Tecovas boots, you can expect handmade quality, first wear comfort, and timeless Western style. Tecovas boots are always made from premium, bovine, and exotic leathers, and with occasional resoling, they will last a lifetime. The best way to shop for boots is at your local Tecovas store, where you'll be greeted by the smell of fresh leather and a friendly smile. Come on in, grab a cold one, get fitted by a pro, and shop the latest styles. Visit Tecovas.com, that's TECOVAS.com, and don't go gently, y'all.
There, right? What would you have thought or done had you got there and there was not a scrape there? Would it have changed your thought process at all, or would you still put one there based on everything around it?
Oh, 100% one was going in because all of the when I say I narrowed that down about 4 or 5 hours,
yeah,
the sign just got more concentrated, and and concentrated. And of course, I'm looking around at all these big saddles and ridges a mile away, half a mile away, and I'm thinking, yeah, it all makes sense. It's the way it looked on a map that it needed to. It even looked better in person. So 100% of what I'm still building right where I built. Now, here's what I might have done different. I might have just put a single in. I put that double in because I'm telling every deer in that country there's a new sheriff in town. And he's got some girls. He's got some other deer with him.
So
I'm trapping whitetails, guys. Yeah. Trapping whitetails. And guys, the scent is a big deal. The scent, you got to put it. I'm telling you, the scent makes a huge difference in big country. I don't hunt congregated deer that are going to find every scrape. I have to find them with scent a mile away and pull them. And that's why I send you guys those bottles. Those spray bottles are to get it up in the air. People may laugh. I don't care. It's amazing when you put that scent 20 feet up above a scrape you build or over a scrape you overmark. I spray it up in the highest limbs I can reach, the best foliage, so that makes a higher scent wick. We've all sat in a tree stand and you see ground wind working one way. You're up 20 feet and the wind's going another way. So I circle my builds or my over markings of a natural scrape. I circle it in the air about 8 to 10 feet, 12, 15 feet, all the way around those scrapes. I go up as high as I can in 4 or 5, 6 different trees. Now, people say, that's a lot of scent. That's an initial build. What am I trying to attract to that spot? I've got the visual. I've got the dirt. I've got the beautiful licking branch. I've got the scent at their face. I've got the scent at the ground. Now I put the scent 20 feet up, and it carries out through the wind like a bear hunter. That's what bear hunters do. Like out here in the West, we'll hang a chunk of bear bait 20 feet high on purpose. Hoist it up, get it up in the air, send it out, cast it. What happens is instead of just relying on concentrated deer to find it, and they will overmark it. You don't even have to put scent in a scrape if a deer sees it. You can build it beautiful and they'll overmark it. But do deer stand and pee 20 feet high? No. Why do I do it? I put it up there so that when they get to that, so that they can smell it further away. I'm trying to pull deer from a mile in every direction. Minimum, at least a mile. And if you will, guys, in the mountains with our wind currents, it's so easy to cast scent a mile. One big wind gust. Whew. You can watch. I use thistleweed. I can throw thistleweed out of my tree stand at 25 feet high, and I can watch that stuff go 200 yards in 3 seconds on a big wind gust. You tell me what that scent's doing blowing through that tree for days.
So Troy, break it down for us. So you walked up to this spot, right? This past weekend. You go in there and you're about to build a scrape. What do you do? Like now you're saying you're spraying it up in the air, but like there's just break it down for us right from the beginning.
Yeah. The up in the air thing is just one more tactic or one more method that I've used my whole life that just made sense to me.
Right. Oh, it does.
You know, it just made sense to me to get, I want, if I'm going to put, you can spray scent on the ground. That's great. They need to smell it and like what they smell when they smell the dirt. But guess what? How do you get them there?
Right.
How do you get them there if deer are spread out for miles? Okay. So that was just one little piece of the puzzle, making that scent wick. I actually had it on I posted a video on my Instagram story of me just going real high with it. And a lot of people looked at it and were like, yeah, that looks like that would probably help. Okay. So I'm there. I love the location. I eyeball 3 to 5 trees that I can hunt out of. I map out in my mind how I came in with the wind. Everything makes sense for me to enter and exit a half mile away. Everything. Where I can park, where I parked, my whole walk in, I'm like, this is money. Like I had a big rock bluff, everything that's going to protect me. Now it's time to go to work is what you want to know, right? Like, how do I build it?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I did, guys, is I got over there 40 yards from that existing one and I found my money licking branch. natural there. It was literally in the perfect spot. I actually said, God, give me a sign that I'm in the right spot. And that's when I had heard that deer walk off earlier. And then I got over there, and this is exactly what happened. I'm looking around and I see my licking branch, the species that I like the most, naturally growing. And I look below it and I'm like, money. There's the dirt below it. Doesn't have a bunch of trees in it. No blowdowns. It is money. It's growing green vegetation, grass all over in it. That tells me it's going to be black dirt. Mm-hmm. So I look at it, and then down through the grass, this is what the sign was. I look into the grass below where I can see where I'm going to pull those licking branches down and build them. I look right below where I know I'm going to pull those licking branches to, and I see buck poop. It looked like whitetail buck poop because it's big and clumped, literally laying right below that species of licking branch that I want to use. So I'm like, yep, this is where it's going. So hands and knees, put my gloves on. I use those gardener gloves, and I literally just start tearing the ground up with my hands because I got to pull. It's basically like gardening. I pull all the grass and all the weeds out, and then there's little roots. There's little roots growing all over in our grass out here, or in our dirt out here, mm-hmm. from all the brush.
Right.
So I spend about 5 to 10 minutes completely excavating that with my hands, with my gloves on. Hands and knees, excavate it all out. And then I grab a stick, break it off, big stick, and I just start tearing it up. And it's just beautiful black soil. And I shape it like a teardrop, and I look up to where I'm going to pull those branches down over the top. And I place the top of that teardrop right underneath where those licking branches are going to get pulled down, and I'm going to sculpt them out. So I build the teardrop, get it all set. Love the way it looks. Take a couple shots of it. Send them. Going to send them to my son later. We always send each other our builds, and then go up to the species of licking branch that I love to use. Grab 2 or 3 big stems of it, pull it over. And the reason I like using this certain species is I can break it a little without breaking it off, because it's a brush. Pull it over, carefully break 3 or 4 of the main stems. I don't break them off. I just break them enough to where they hang. I get them all hanging, and it's got leaves all over it. I get it all hanging perfectly above the top end of that teardrop, that big dirt scrape. So then I go through and I pull every leaf off of it 2 feet up. No foliage on it at all. And then there's probably 10 to 12 hanging different branches off of it. And it's hanging like this. And then I start twisting them, and I like to break them and break them open so that a deer sees where they've been twisted and torn, and you see the white wood inside open up. And that's what they see when they work a very heavily used community scrape. They see that stuff get broken and twisted and torn and tattered. Sculpt it all out. That takes about 10 minutes. So about 5 to 8, 10 minutes on the ground, 5 to 10 minutes above. Had a lot of green on it, so I really had to work it back. And I'm just stripping with those gardener, the rubberized palm gloves. Mm-hmm. Then I get it hanging perfectly, chest to face height, multiple licking branches hanging over this beautiful black dirt. And then I go to my scents, forehead gland, multiple mix that I build up on the licking branch, multiple profiles of urines and some other things in my dirt. I use the mist. I mist everything up top.
How many squirts?
On an initial build, I go pretty heavy initially. Because when I come back, all I got to do is barely touch. I just got to touch it up, and I'm done. So let's say 8 to 10 squirts.
Okay.
But I'm misting. I'm misting, just a mist to cover. I'm trying to get as much surface area of that licking branch covered.
Okay.
So mist, and then I go back up even to where the leaves were, and I mist that a little bit. And then I'm done. Drop down, mist the entire scrape. And then on a initial build, I'll usually crack my bottle open and just dribble a little bit in one spot, like a deer really pissed in one spot.
Right.
You don't have to. You don't have to. All you need is the deer to get there and smell the right scents. So then I crack the nozzle on both, and I go high in the trees above it, 4, 5, 6, 7 squirts, and I'm out. I'm out of there. And I've got a scent wick like you wouldn't believe. It just smells amazing because I'm so used to smelling that urine and smelling those forehead mixes that the wind's moving a little bit on me, and I'm picking up that scent. I'm going, there's not a deer within a mile of here that's not going to smell this. So then I'm like, all right, let's really give this buck, if there's a good buck up here. I don't even know. But I think there's a good buck in there, at least one. Who knows? I might have 3. I might have 1. I might have none. We're going to find out in about a month. So then I thought, I'm going to make a double. And I look 12 feet, 15 feet away roughly, and there's another one of my preferred species of licking branch that I love, literally drooped over for me at chest height.
You're gonna
I
kill
look at the ground below it, fresh, tall grass, foot high, growing in it, money. Jump down there, garden it out, teardrop it. I make this one a little bigger. So there, if a deer walks through there, it's going to be like, what in the hell? Who's here? Did the same exact sculpting of the licking branches, got a double, walk over, put a camera on both, running it through both doubles. It's on video, put another camera on the other side with its back to the sun on picture. I always run 2 cameras because a camera will fail you. Cameras get hit by bears. Cameras screw up. So I always run at least 2 cameras on every set so that I don't miss out on a freaking giant. You never know. Anyway, set it up, guys. Cameras I always do last. Peel my gloves off, put on some, I put on cloth gloves for my cameras because I don't want any of that licking branch type scent that I just gardened and worked up. I don't want any of that on a camera. A bear will eat it. A bear will just tear it apart. Or the urine. I don't want any of that on my cameras. So got the camera set, clean gloves, set the cameras, walked out with a huge smile on my face.
I love it. I love it. Now my question is, when you're going to take one over, same steps and procedures, or are we just spraying in?
A little different. A little
Okay.
different.
Just a couple of squirts here and there, top, bottom, and
Tear the dirt up first, no matter what time of the year it is. Tear the dirt up. Deer are smart, but they're not that smart. Tear the dirt up, give them fresh soil to smell. They'll come to fresh soil.
right.
They will. So tear the dirt up, mist the scrape with your scent, overmark them just like a dog overmarks another dog. Piss right over the top of theirs. So overmark their scent. So scrape the dirt, make a nice bed, clean the leaves out of it, make it very visual for these deer. Mist it, squirt, 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 done. Go up to your licking branch, make sure it looks real good. If there's any new green foliage on it growing in the summer, strip it back. Use gloves. Use those rubber-based gloves in your palms. Don't put your hands all over it. You can do it if you want. My deer aren't that dumb. They will not allow. My old bucks won't tolerate it. They smell my human hands on a licking branch, they're gone. They're very leery of that spot if my human hands are on it. So I always have something, or at least I spray my hands down with Vanishing Hunter. That's only in a situation where I'm a dumbass and forgot my gloves. And if I ever forget my gloves, I literally spray with my Vanishing Hunter. Then I put my hands in black dirt and I literally coat my hands in dirt. And I've got away with it, I think, before doing that, but I will not touch it with bare hands. So at least I rub dirt all over my hands if I have to. That's only, like I said, though, if I screw up and forget my gloves, which I hardly ever do, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. Anyway, touch up the licking branch, clean it up, give them a better visual, because usually this time of year, guys, the leaves and the green comes back out, and it gets thick. So give them this really undeniable visual that sticks out into the woods. Like they'll see it from 50 yards away. Give them that visual. So they see that big witch's hand hanging down. And make it very obvious. Like even look at the background and make sure you don't have something in the background blending it in. So I always have this licking branch that sticks out like a sore thumb. Could another hunter find that? Yeah, if they're willing to go where I go.
Right.
So I roll the dice there on the licking branches. Do I have much trouble with guys finding my licking branches? No, I don't, because most people don't even know what they're looking for when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do, but very few. Very few. I've had so many people walk by my scrapes that if they're not a scrape hunter, they're really not looking for scrapes anyway.
Right.
Anyway, touch it up, a lot lighter on the scent. I don't have to build it as heavy. And then I do go high, a couple squirts, just to let deer in the area know that, hey, there's a new dude in town. There's some new girls in town. And then I get out.
And then it just keeps on piling on.
Yeah, what guys have seen it. I really have just been blown away over the years by being super patient with these scrapes. I'm so patient. I just let them build and build and build. And I say this all the time. My scrapes get really good, especially my mocks, after 3 years. I'm that patient. They get really good. Usually 3 to 5 years, then they're just rocking. Sometimes it's 1 year, a few years back, I killed a buck and I had a 190, a 170, or a 160, and a 150, and a 190 on the same scrape within a week, which never happens. I just was super fortunate, got in the right spot. That rarely happens, but it can. Usually what it happens, guys, is I have a one shooter buck, or I'll have at least one buck on a new build that has great potential that I'm willing to play the long game with him. That's usually the case. Those 190, 160, 150 equations don't happen very often. That was a freak happening, in my opinion. But I usually have one, or at least a great up-and-comer to play the long game on.
I think that one of the things is a lot of people want that instant gratification, and it seems like this is not that. If you want instant gratification, this is not the game for you.
Well, I think too many guys watch TV and watch places that have highly managed deer that are congregated in small woodlots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hunting low deer density, potential for a great deer if he gets age, and I got to pull him from a long ways away. Now, I've had some really good friends of mine that hunt really excellent properties, but what the guys that have done the best with scrapes that I visited with personally about the reason why I would use them in those places is now they're pulling way more deer even off the other properties. And that's what they want.
Right.
Troy, aside from weight and having to lug it around with you, is there any reason why you don't use like a garden trowel or some kind of tool to excavate that dirt, or you just prefer using your hand and don't feel like it's one extra thing to carry? Or
I don't want to carry any of that shit in the woods. I am such a minimalist, and I love just big stick, tear it up, gloves on my hands. I mean, I've just done it for so long that way that it's so fast. If you want to carry a hoe into the woods, a garden tool, God bless you, go for it. I have zero want to ever carry a garden tool into the woods with me.
Right.
Unless I'm doing this. I used to carry, before synthetic scents, I used to carry my mom's little garden shovel about that long. And I used to scrape the top of all the fresh piss and urine off a scrape that was being used in October and November, and I would carefully scoop it into a Ziploc. And I would transfer that 10, 20, 50 miles away. I'm doing the same thing now with synthetics. I just don't have to go do. I just don't have to wait till October, November to get that urine.
Right.
I also used to dissect every doe, every buck. Anybody would let me get a hold of their bladder, and I would take a syringe and pull the urine, freeze it, and reuse it too. But I don't have to do that anymore. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of time. And then that was back when I had friends around that were killing any deer, that they wanted, killing deer, and they're like, yeah, come on over, Troy, you can have the urine. I don't care. What do you want that for? And, but I know what I was using it for, and it worked great. But now I just don't need to do that.
Right.
But no, that's the only time I ever used a tool. If they ever ever outlawed all scents, period, I'd go right back to moving dirt, transferring licking branches that are hammered with 10 or 12 deer on them already, which is easy to do. I'd just go back to doing that because that's how I did it before I used any scents.
Right.
When I was young, I just transferred licking branches and dirt.
That's awesome. Brian Corlin said, Buddy and I attended Troy's mountain whitetail class last year. Well worth the price of admission.
It's a good time. It's coming up on the 8th. I can't wait. Hey, guys, I got guys from Jersey, Connecticut, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, all coming.
Connecticut.
Oh, easy. No, they can't go there.
I got guys
on the other side of the state.
Guys, I got guys coming from all over the country this year. I try to keep my class small. We have a blast. 50% in class, 50% in the field. Everything we cover in class, we go walk in the field and talk about it all in the field.
That's incredible. Do you, while we're on the topic, do you have any scent left that if guys needed some that they could get a hold of you and order? Are you all out or?
No, I'm great. I am stocked up big time this year. Guys that want to, and hey, I'm a Buck Fever Synthetic Foundation guy. Buck Fever Synthetics is an amazing, great foundation for my scents. But if you're interested in the very specific mixes that I have used and made over the years, just get a hold of me. Yep, I got a lot of it.
We're looking forward to killing over it.
Just to clarify that, so you take Buck Fever Synthetics, make your own blend with that, and then you add other undisclosed things to that?
Yeah, I've always done that. I've always had a kind of a science chemistry mind. So for decades, I've purposefully tried to, I've always liked how Buck Fever just works great. But I always feel like everything in this world can be better. So for me, I've always tested and tried different, and it's all synthetic entities within my mix, yes. So when you guys use my stuff, you got to shake it well. Shake it good. Shake it up before you spray it.
Troy's Secret Sauce? Like, does that have a name? Do you call it?
No, you guys, I initially, this all happened because dudes were like, Troy, you like blend your own mixes and stuff. I go, oh yeah, can I get some from you? And I'm like, sure, but it's not cheap for me to make. I mean, part of it is, but some of it isn't. And I threw a price out, and guys are like, yeah, no problem. Now, what I end up seeing, guys, is the dudes that are serious about scrapes and are detailed, they come back every year because they're killing it with it, killing their best bucks ever with it. The people that are sloppy, don't go to the detail, aren't careful, get their human scent in it. In my opinion, I'm just going to throw this out there, poor looking, average looking scrapes that look like every other scrape in the woods. Like, really try to mimic what your deer and your woods like the best when it comes to a social scrape, a hub community scrape, if you will. Those guys are doing amazing with it. Like, and I can tell because they come back every year. As a matter of fact, I got a guy from my boot camp from 4 years ago is picking up a kit from me tomorrow. I got one guy from my boot camp that's came 5 years in a row. This is 5th year he's coming.
Wow. Can you overdo it? Like, can you go too big? So, like, for instance, like, I've talked to you about it before. Like, I have one community scrape in general, in particular. It's freaking huge. Like, I've never seen anything like it, and it's 100% natural. But now, let's say I'm in another property a half an hour away, right? And in that area, I don't tend to find community scrapes as big. When I go in to make my scrape, the one I want to kill over, can I err on the bigger side, or should I try to match what's in that actual area where I'm putting it?
The only shooting stick with one-handed trigger pull adjustments has a new way to keep you at the top of your game. The Trigger Stick Apex, built for sturdy support that adapts to unforgiving terrain with easy adjustments to make your big shots. With our DuraSteady 3-piece carbon leg design and interchangeable rock-solid clamp, nothing tops the Apex. The Trigger Stick Apex, only from Primos.
At Midway USA, we know the AR-15 is one of the most popular rifles in modern American history. Known for its modularity and widespread use, it's often considered essential to any gun collection. The essential things you need to run an AR-15 are usually always in stock during shortages, things like magazines and 5.56 ammo. Whether you're looking to buy a new AR-15 or buy parts for your modern sporting rifle, log on and for just about everything for the outdoors, shop MidwayUSA.com. Whether you're just looking to stay warm during a hunt or need maximum concealment, the clothing you wear can make or break a hunt. At MidwayUSA.com, we understand hunting clothing has come a long way with more meticulously crafted camo patterns, advanced scent control technologies, and weatherproof options to withstand the elements. Hunters have to wait until their favorite season, but shouldn't wait on gear, which is why Midway USA offers super fast shipping. When you're ready for your next system, log on to MidwayUSA.com.
I always try to give the bucks and does an obvious visual and obvious odor to get them there. So I would never go like hard to see, more minimal. But do I think you could get too ridiculous with it and overdo it, and it's a waste of your work time and maybe a waste of too much scent? Yeah, I think you could do that.
Okay.
I try to keep it very relative to the local deer herds based on what the deer show me. Yes, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. But I really try to give them a great visual. Like, I want a buck to walk by and his head to just go, bam. How did I miss that in my first 5 years of life?
Right, because when the way you're building these, when they show up and find it, this is something that to them didn't just show up overnight. Like that's established. Like it's been there for 5 years. So they're looking at it like that's not new. That's been there, and I didn't know about it.
Whitetail deer, if you spend enough time with them and watching them and letting them walk. I've watched so many bucks in my lifetime walk by me where a little buck maybe had come in over the weekend or 2 weeks before, that day or 5 days before, and got all hyped up and built a tiny little scrape next to a giant scrape, say 20, 30, 40 yards away. My big deer walk in, they won't even pay any attention to that little twerp scrape. They don't even care. His twerp scent is on it. Those big deer go right to where those does and those bucks have been working and addressing those scrapes for decades or years or even that month. They always go to where the best social connection is. They could care less about some young buck that got fired up on testosterone and built a little twerp scrape. And I've watched them do it. I've watched them walk right by him and then walk right over to the big dog and address it and then go on with their business.
One more question I don't think we touched on. Freshening up your scrapes. Is it a time thing? Is it whenever you visit that scrape to pull a card? Are you always giving it another squirt? Like, how do you know when to add and how much do you add?
Well, the reason I like the synthetics the most and all the different combinations of stuff that I use is I can usually mark it one time, and it's usually good for a couple months, especially when the deer start taking it over, man. So I never stress or think I've got to run back to the woods and overmark it. I think one of the biggest mistakes guys have made over the years that take my advice, they think more is better. And where they really screw up, this is a huge screw up and a no-no in my opinion on smart old deer. You don't want your human odor and traffic in there a lot. So if your scent's already working for you and the deer are already taking it over, my rule is max once a month. Once a month max. I've stuck to that rule forever, and it works. Or only overmarket after I hunt it, or if I can slip in on that first hunt, and I'll get, I might shoot it 20, 15 feet away and just get some scent in that scrape and on that, and then I'm in my stand.
Yeah.
But to Steve, to be clear to the audience, anytime I hunt a scrape, when I exit the stand,
Yeah.
it gets overmarked as I leave.
Oh, so let me ask you this. How many times have you hunted the stand, overmarked it, and then when you pulled that camera, found out he showed up that night or the next day after you overmarked it?
Not only does it happen a ton, I expect it.
Yeah, it happened to me last year.
Right. And what I get fired up about, though, is then I know he's in trouble, especially if he daylighted.
Yeah. Yeah, he daylighted, all right.
Yeah. And I think we talked about your buck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you guys using my stuff last year?
No, but I was using buck fever, just not Troy's
That's
stuff. Yeah.
Well, that buck fever is great stuff. It works great. What I really like to do is if I don't kill him on that first set, because I'll only go hunt a spot if I think I have a chance to kill, period.
Yep.
So let's say it doesn't happen. This happens a lot. A lot of times I kill on the 2nd to 5th day. And that doesn't mean all day sit. That means 2nd to 5th sit. And a lot of times it's a 2-hour sit is all. I'll overmark it. And then I love it. I'm like, all right, dude, how good is this scent? How dominant are you? How bad do you want to guard this scrape? How often are you going to check on it versus me? And what I get excited about is when them suckers show up that night or the next day. And a lot of times I trust my method, so I'm back in there the next day anyway, sitting on him.
Right. Yeah,
because I believe he's going to show up.
Because you're not really running cell cameras up in the mountains where you are, so you wouldn't know he showed up after you left until you pull that card down the road, anyways.
I have so much confidence in my scrapes. I almost always hunt them the next day after I overmark.
Right, that's what
I plan for it.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe 10% of my spots get cell service of all the places I hunt in the Northwest. Maybe 10%. Yeah.
That just reminded me, I had another question earlier. You were talking about prospecting. So I've heard you talk before. I know some of the spots that you hunt, like you might be hunting up in the mountains, but you do have ag down the bottom.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So back to the Northeast, a lot of times with our smaller parcels, like we might be able to hunt the Hardwoods Ridge, but we can't hunt that ag. So our target bucks might be summering in that ag all summer. We can put a camera in now and a scrape in now. We're never going to get a picture of that deer until the velvet comes off, probably, right? So how often are you prospecting, putting a scrape in now, putting a camera in there that might not give you any intel until season opens? But you know that at some point he's going to show back up, or he could show up at any time? Or are all your scrapes going to, more or less, are you expecting immediate feedback?
Well, first of all, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on the start of that. I pull bucks to the top of mountains off of ag.
Okay.
Now I'm using the wind. I'm putting these scrapes where I know the wind's going to blow out over the top of that ag field, but I'm above him.
Okay.
I almost always try to get the high ground on all bucks. I hunt bucks really high, especially in ag country. I tend to hunt probably higher than anybody, but I'm not just randomly putting a scrape out, just hoping. I place it where I might be out on a point that I know will cast that scent out over that best ag field they're feeding in, and it might be a mile walk below. But it's so steep that all I got to do is get that scent out in that wind a quarter mile, and guess where it drops?
Right into that bottom, yeah.
Right into those fields, and it lays it. That scent will lay itself out through the timber all the way down to that field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people are thinking, no way. I don't know if there's any other way to pull a velvet buck right to my scrape. August 30th, there's 3 of them I've killed doing this on the top of a mountain coming off of an alfalfa field, almost a mile walk below. And I did it with 3 different velvet bucks on a certain mountain about 12, 15 years ago. Now, I've replicated that since, so I do believe you can pull deer up. I would love to come out with you, Steve, and see these high ground spots you guys can hunt. I do believe you can pull deer up even in the early season. but it's all about getting that scent in their nose and them really being curious about what is up there above me in my terrain or in my turf that I'm going to run anyway once the pressure's on.
Right.
So I do believe you can do that.
Okay. So
because I've done.
Yeah, I'm not doubting you at all. I just have more questions now. So if this buck, say it's a bachelor group, whatever, they're summering, they've got everything they need. They've got the field, it's nice and cool bottom, they got their water. They're not doing nothing. They're just bedding right there in the bottom. They're going to their field, all that stuff. I go in there as close as I can get on that point because of property lines. I put the scrape out. It blows out into that bottom a quarter mile away. They catch wind of it. Are they curiosity is going to get the best of them? They're going to come up, check that scrape. Now, are they going to go right back to that spot and live back in the bottom for the rest of the summer and then wander back in the fall? Or are they going to actually start coming back regularly?
What I ended up doing and getting bucks to do over about a 5 period of time in that same scenario where I killed 3 of them, I killed all 3 of them off the mountain doing this. And I was pulling them off of alfalfa a long ways away.
Uh-huh.
What I ended up doing is starting all 3 of them when they were younger.
Okay.
So they were real curious when they're 2 and 3. They're really curious. I didn't kill any of them till I had trained them. I call it conditioning or training them for a couple years. So then what they started doing for me is instead of bedding down by the alfalfa field like they were when they were young, when I first pulled them, they started bedding up real close to my scrape, getting elevation. Now, to be fair, I don't know if your bucks like elevation like mine do. As my bucks get older, they like elevation. They feel safer with the daily thermals being high.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, guys, this is my scenario. I don't want to say it's going to work, but I would love to try it out where you're at because I think it could work. I think the key is the location of your scrape to send that scent like a trap and put that in their nose more than once. And then you just have to experiment with it, see if you can pull them. They might start bedding a little closer to you if they have a good enough reason. If they don't, they may stay down low in bed, and it might be a lot harder to pull them. To me, I don't know for sure, but I know that as my bucks get older, they always like elevation because they learn over time that daily up mountain thermal really protects them if they lay high.
Okay. It's good.
Well, if you cannot kill a buck on information that was laid down tonight, you probably should quit deer hunting, in my opinion. Troy, I got one last question, man. We asked you this last time, and I know it meant something. I see you rolling back there. We want to know.
I was just thinking. I get so freaking fired up about this and so excited. I'm almost sorry that I get so. I probably come across to people way too intense. And I just stop myself and go, I just love this so much, you guys. And I hope it helps somebody. Sorry for butting in, but when you said all this information, I mean, this has been my life, and this is what I love more than anything. So I do apologize if I get too loud and too fired up. I just freaking love this stuff. I just absolutely live for it. I'm sorry.
I will validate that for you. I've been a big fan of yours for several years now, and I can remember the first time I heard you on some podcast, and I was to the point where I couldn't get enough information from you. I just searched your name and listened to every damn podcast you had been on at the time because I just couldn't get enough of the information you have to offer. So I can't speak for Trevor, but just to be able to sit here and actually look you in the face and ask you the questions that come to my mind, like it's amazing for me. So
hey, we're all dudes that love to hunt whitetails. That's all we are.
And Troy,
we're all, I'm just a normal dude, just like you guys. Just loves whitetails and glad I can share. I do not like this whole, nobody should ever be put on a pedestal. I really believe in respect. Really respecting the guys that that do it right and do it in a way that's like super, like fair chase and get after it. But other than that, it's just weird for me to hear you guys say that, because it's like, I'm just a guy that fell in love with whitetails that loves to try to help. That's it. And I'm going to keep killing them until the day I die. And a lot of them are going to teach me lessons and kick my butt. But boy, that's half of the fun, is having one kick your ass. It's like, okay, buddy, all right, you want to go? All right, let's go. And then there's times too where it's like I almost walk away with tears some years because I wasn't good enough to get to a buck before a pack of wolves killed him. You know, I've had those years. All that to say, thank you guys. Trevor, what's your question? I'll answer it now.
No, it's all good, man. We all get fired up. I mean, listen, if you put all three of us in the room, we would probably be so loud they'd probably kick us out of wherever we were, because we get so excited. And it's just because we're so ate up in it. We spend our whole lives. This is what we do. This is what it is. The outdoors. We just so passionate about it. Like it just runs thick in the blood. So I get it and understand it, man. I totally, and you don't come off arrogant. You're probably one of the most humble dudes I know, to be honest with you, man. Like truly, honestly, Troy. So
I want all people to hunt their own hunt. I want all people to work their way up the ladder. I don't want people to think that you got to go kill a giant high scoring buck to be cool. That's all bullshit. I want people to really become a great whitetail hunter and woodsman. Like get into the fact that you're learning and soak it up, enjoy the heck out of it. But please, it took me a long time to get to where my goals are now. And it's a blast. I'm having more fun than ever in my life chasing the whitetails I'm after now. But I really don't want to come across, and I got to be careful of that. I listened to a guy on a podcast the other day that said he allowed his own psychology to keep him from shooting the best buck of his life because it got in his head that it might not measure up to some size or some size spec on Instagram, and I thought, dudes, no. I mean, I remember when I shot my first whitetail up close and personal with a bow, I'll bet it scored maybe 100. And that might have been the coolest feeling I've ever had on my life to that point, because I killed him off the ground at about 8 yards. And then you just work your way up the ladder. And whatever your ladder is, my ladder may be different than your guys' ladder. I just really hope that people go hunt their own damn hunts and really just enjoy the shit out of it and get better. Want to learn and get better and be more efficient. That's fun too. It's fun. I mean, we all want to kill, or we wouldn't do this. So we all want to kill. We all want to be successful. But please, people, please, everybody, just work your way up. Work your way up, especially you young guys and gals out there listening. Just work your way up and enjoy the hell out of it.
So that's one thing that we live by is hunt your own hunt. Like your goal, like we say it all the time, hunt your own hunt, because your goals are different than my goals are different than yours goals. And one of the things too is we all have game rooms with tons of big whitetails or animals that we've killed because we've gotten to that point in our lives. But if you look in the corner, I got more crotch horn, 3 point, 5 points. You know what I'm saying? You have to understand, and you have to kill deer to learn how to kill deer, and you have to do it right. We're all at different points in our lives, and we have different goals. We're not here to dictate what's best for you, and the whole scene online is just, it's not good, because it paints this whole picture, and people think that they have to go kill 180s. You're not passing the biggest deer on your property to try and kill a 180 that doesn't exist on the property. That doesn't make any sense.
Right, and then social media has a great side to it too. We guys like us get to meet each other.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
We get to become friends, even though we live a long ways away. 30 years ago, guys, when I really started getting into this, 35 years ago, I guess, really started getting serious about this, you wrote a letter to somebody. That was it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this unbelievable avenue of camaraderie, us guys that love this, that we get to share this, we get to discuss it for people all over the country, that hopefully there's some people watching. But there's both sides to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Trev kind of touched on it earlier tonight, where, you know, we're in a day and age where people want instant success and gratification. I wish people would realize that the most gratification stems from the hard work you put in. And I think that's, especially with you, Troy, like deep down inside, like the feeling you feel when you get success all comes back from the years of work you put in. You know, you've had history with this buck since he was 2 years old. You've been working these scrapes and getting all the intel. So when it comes together, when that deer's 6 or 7 years old, it all goes back for years and years and years. And that's what makes that moment so special. But somewhere along the lines, people want this like instantaneous, and they don't realize they're never going to get that same feeling instantaneously as they would if they put in the work and, like, quote unquote, earned it. It just makes it that much more special when you find that success.
Yeah, the thing I'm most proud of, period, is the fact that I live in an area to where you can't cheat it. It's, you either do the work and are intelligent about it and really are okay with failures and have to be okay with failing and work through it and get better, because I'm on a playing field that isn't a piece of cake. It's not. So that's one reason why I'll never leave the mountains and never leave the Northwest, because I actually love the reward that comes from what it takes.
I love it. Troy, we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight, man, and going through scrapes, and I hope that everybody has and finds themselves great success from all of the stuff that they've learned here this evening. But I do have one last question, man, before we cut it loose, is we want to know, Troy, what drives you outdoors?
So many things I want to say, and I can't say a bunch. Just getting to live my dream. I'm living my dream. You know, my dad died really young, and we were so close in the mountains. I logged with him. I hunted with him. It's where I feel the happiest and the freest. So for me, it's just, I'm truly getting to live. God has blessed me. God has blessed me greatly. I have an amazing wife, great kids. Nothing's perfect. We work really hard as our family. But I truly get to live my dream, which is to be in the mountains and hunt these old tough bucks. I mean, that's my dream. That's not everybody's dream, but I get to live mine. And you might ask me the same question a year from now, and it might be something different. But right now, I'm extremely grateful for my life and how I've been blessed, and that I get the chance to share with people, even if it's tiny little nugget that helps them. I'm super happy that if I was gone tomorrow, I may have made a difference for somebody somewhere. That's what I care about.
I agree with you, Troy. And leaving the legacy behind so that ones can learn from it. I think it's absolutely amazing, dude, and you've touched the hearts of many. Like, it's so true. You're going to change the way that a lot of people hunt, and myself included. I mean, we truly appreciate it, Troy. Thank you very much, honestly.
No, I appreciate you guys. You guys have been great. Really enjoy the way you guys come at me with questions and just who you guys are as men. I really hope you guys get to find some success. I know, Steve, last year you were close on a big one. I really hope you guys get to see it come together, especially that longer game. Like, be patient, guys. When you think you run out of patience on this, just stay with it. and then it pays off. And then you start figuring it out more and more with scrapes. The next thing you know, you realize this piece of the puzzle can really be significant. I think everywhere I go, it works. And I can't, 2 years I retire from my day job, and then I get to watch the stuff that I do in the Northwest. I get to put it into practice other places for longer periods of time, which for me personally, I love that because I learn so much more when I spend more time doing it.
I can't wait to see what you do once you retire. There's not going to be a whitetail from west to east coast no more, Troy.
Oh no, I'm way too picky. I'll probably get my butt kicked most of the time, but I will work my tail off to figure it out. I get to go back to Ohio this year.
Yep.
I am headed to Alberta this year, and then out here in the West.
Wow.
Every time you say something, Troy, it triggers another question I gotta ask. So you're travel hunting. You're gonna go to Ohio. You're showing up in Ohio for say it's a week-long hunt. Are you bringing the scent? Are you going into public on a 5-day hunt and you setting a trap, or you hunting the way Troy hunts everywhere else, or are you doing something different?
Well, Ty and I went to Ohio this year. We set our traps. Ty killed right away. I got really picky on a buck that was really hard to get on and passed up. I passed a 5-year-old, beautiful buck, to try to kill the buck I wanted to kill. And I literally should have changed my flight because I'd have killed him the next day or two. But Tyson had football that he had to, Ty's a college football player.
Mm-hmm.
Ty had a deadline, and I didn't change my flight. I probably should have. I think I would have killed that deer. But Ohio was really good to us last year. Ty came home with a beautiful buck. I passed up on I let a 5-year-old. I left him alone and was after a different buck and really came close on the last day. I had him about 65 yards in 8 days on a stud that was pressured.
And Ty killed over a 3-day-old mock scrape that he made?
No. Ty hunted over a good buddy of mine, Steve Pinkston, on his property over his setups. So we had some buddies that we had some help, but the deer I went after, I pretty much was me and him, mano y mano, and I had to find him. I had to pull him from another property. I built mock scrapes, and this was in late December, early January, and I got him the last couple days to get there, and that's pretty cool in January.
Yeah.
So, guys, I pulled him off an adjacent property and got him to start visiting. I seriously ran out of time. I needed 1 or 2 more days, and I think I would have killed him because he started frequenting right at the end when I just ran out of time. The last sit, the last day, 65 yards, could have flung an arrow. He was in the wide open. I decided not to shoot that far.
Wow.
Okay. But so that's not out of the realm, though, no? So if me and Trevor are going to Ohio, say late last week of October, public land, hill country, bring the bottles, find some sign, overmark them, and don't be and I mean that could pay off in within a couple of days.
What time of the year are you guys going?
Hypothetically, but like let's say last week of October.
Oh yeah, I mean, I pulled deer in January.
Yeah.
And let me share this with you. We ran cell cameras. If I showed you the cell camera footage from every day we were there, we had multiple shooters for most people in a second. Now, don't take that wrong. I was being picky because I'm going to be picky.
Right.
We had multiple shooters within day 2. Boom. We're talking late December, early January on our scrape builds. Jeez. I mean, it's real. Our cell cameras were popping every day. There was a buck that I saw on camera after about the 3rd day. He popped up, and I was like, that's a buck I want to kill.
Right. Now, were those go ahead.
Go ahead.
Were those overmarked scrapes for the most part, or are you putting in brand new?
We put brand new ones in. There's actually one of my reels on my Instagram shows Ty and I building one of them. And this is late December, early January. I've been told you can't kill a deer late season over a scrape. I don't listen to any of it because I know what whitetails will do with scrapes.
Yeah.
So we put in big mocks. We also overmarked a couple existings And we had shooter bucks on every scrape. And the one I wanted to kill, man, he was careful. I had to pull him off an adjacent property. He had to cross a big open field in the daylight to get there. On the last day, he did it. And I thought I was going to kill him and be the hero, and he just didn't. He didn't get close enough for me to comfortably want to shoot him, because I was not going to leave Ohio on a piss poor shot. And I like close. I feel like I'm a good shot, guys, but I've never shot a whitetail over 35 yards ever on purpose, out of respect for the deer. Now, there's guys that will say, well, I'm a way better shot than you, so I'm going to do it. I'll argue the law of physics with anybody on how much a deer can move at 50, 60 yards. I'll argue physics and the speed of an arrow versus the speed of sound and how quick a deer can drop. I'll argue that till the day I die. But the thing is, that old stud buck that was standing out there that I wanted to kill, I looked at it as I wasn't quite good enough in 8 days to get him killed. That's how I looked at it. It wasn't quite good enough, but I pulled him and got him to come over.
He might not live another 8 days in Ohio when you're in town.
Well, Andre, I was talking to Andre DeQuisto afterwards, and Andre's like, Troy, why didn't you change your flight? And I said I would have if I'd have been alone.
Oh, because he had to go play football. Yep.
My son had to get back to football practice, and you don't miss football practice, period.
Nope.
And it's winter workouts, but it didn't matter. He had to get back.
It's important for sure.
I mean, it's just the way it goes in that game of Division I football.
I'll be honest with you. Back in the day, I mean, I only played high school ball, but I might have skipped school to go deer hunting. But I always made it back to school before football practice started.
Yeah, exactly. And I know we kind of got off on a tangent there, but yeah. So back to Ohio this year, guys. I'm freaking fired up because this is what I didn't get to tell the listeners. For the 8 days that I was there, I literally scouted almost all day, every day, and only hunted short periods because I didn't find what I wanted until day 5 or 6. So I think it was day 5. So what did I get to do? Ty's off hunting a caliber of deer he was super happy with. And he was either going to kill the 5-year-old that I didn't want to hunt or the other buck, and he ended up killing the other buck that Steve really had him on a pattern. So Steve Pinkston, thank you. It was awesome. But Ty would have killed that other deer we got on our scrapes too. He'd have killed either one. Whichever one showed first, he would have killed either. He just happened to sit on the one and it showed before the other, if that makes sense. So he killed either a 4 or a 5-year-old. They said it was at least 4.5, probably a 5. That other one we had was 5 all day. Like he is an old timer. Like you could tell he had the look and the size, but the one that I was after, I knew of because Steve had like a couple pictures of him, but he wasn't around. And right when I was almost ready to say, okay, I'll go kill that 5-year-old, that sucker showed up on one of my scrapes. And then I was like, that's it. It's him or nothing. So I had 3 days to try to get him killed. All that to say, going back this year, I learned so much about those properties, guys. Now, I was on private land, so I do get to go hunt some of those same properties. I learned so much about those properties and how the deer use them and how they use the wind there and where they want to feed and how they avoid pressure that I know so much more about it that at least going there this year, I'll have that in my hip pocket versus going in blind.
I love it. Troy, we can't thank you enough for joining us, man. It's been a great podcast. You're always welcome here, man. We can't thank you enough. And like I said, I cannot wait to start making mock scrapes now that we have the lowdown on how to use it properly. We can't thank you enough, Troy. And for everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.
Thanks for having me, guys.